welcome. This is the news on NTA International, and I am Lami Ali with the headlines. 360 days of Muhammadu Buhari's second tenure in focus, correspondence and journey so far. 1 year anniversary of Buhari's second tenure, Minister of Information says President Buhari has put Nigeria on irreversible path of growth. Also in the news, European, Asian and South American countries ease lockdown as businesses resume amid COVID-19. The intense rate of banditry attacks in some parts of the country, especially the northern region, is raising much concern. President Muhammadu Buhari was briefed by Governor Aminu Waziri Tambuwal of Sokoto State on the security challenge the state is facing. Similarly, Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State was also at the presidential villa seeking urgent intervention of the federal government to strengthen ongoing offensive against the bandits operating in and around the state. State House correspondent Jide Onifadi reports. Details of that report will come later. Africa is positioned to play a critical role in the remolding of a post-coronavirus world that centers around manufacturing. The president said in the new post-coronavirus age, Nigeria and Africa more broadly wish to benefit the world, not to be dragged on its resources or seemingly forever in need of aid. In a statement, the president believes that Africa's manufacturing moment has been on the launchpad and can be different after COVID-19. The president said no country or continent has a permanent monopoly on manufacturing jobs, adding that Africa is positioned to seize the opportunity of the COVID-19 to benefit the world. With Africa's young population becoming increasingly educated, President Buhari said governance reform is growing in strength in most African countries. Sustained actions against the seemingly perennial scourge of corruption and malfeasance are well recognized, and energy, infrastructure and key natural resources needed to power and supply large-scale manufacturing facilities are in place. He said in Nigeria, a major global oil producer has finally established its first private oil refinery. While that is good news for over 1 billion Africans, the greatest benefit to those who look to Africa as the brightest global manufacturing location is that we are not and do not seek to engage in geopolitical competition. President Buhari said Africa is an opportunity for all and a threat to anyone, adding that there will be no African armies or aircraft carriers in the future roaming the sands of faraway lands or the streets of foreign seas. Buhari maintained that Africa do not seek to grow our manufacturing capabilities in order to grant for itself that as the table of some new great political game, but merely to play our part as partners in development. Moving on, President Buhari has approved the appointment of Justice M.B. Dongbam Memsem as the acting president of the Court of Appeal with effect from June 3, 2020 for a further period of 3 months. A statement from the President's Senior Special Assistant Media and Publicity says the appointment is pursuant to Section 234, Subsection 4 and Subsection 5 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. And 1 year into President Muhammadu Buhari's second term in office has been characterized by bold and advisory actions. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed stated this at a media briefing to mark the first anniversary of Buhari's second term mandate. Anthony Folson reports.
Describing the past 1 year as a momentous one for Nigeria, Lai Mohammed said President Muhammadu Buhari has steadily and consistently provided the leadership that has now put Nigeria on an irreversible path to sustainable development, stressing that never in the history of Nigeria have such positive steps been taken in such a short period. Beginning with power, water, border drill codenamed Exercise Swift Response. On infrastructure, Lai Mohammed said there are over 50 projects spread across 26 states of the Federation and are all going on steadily. The fight against corruption has equally yielded positive results, with over 81 billion naira worth recovered and 1,217 convictions by the ICPC and EFCC. The executive order is another major policy decision that will promote good governance.
President Muhammad Buhari took yet another bold step, this time on the implementation of financial autonomy of the state legislature and judiciary by signing Executive Order number 10 of 2020. This decision will strengthen the institutions at the state level and make them more independent and accountable in line with the tenets of democracy as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended.
Nigeria, through some of these policies, has intensified its security to guarantee food sufficiency.
Today, Nigeria is fast attaining self-sufficiency in rice production, as the border drill has drastically reduced rice smuggling into the country and catalyzed rice production by farmers across the country. Today, Nigeria has over 34 integrated rice mills, as well as rice clusters, while millions of direct and indirect jobs have been created.
The present administration has also matched action with words in the area of job creation.
In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, President Muhammad Buhari has approved the engagement of 774,000 Nigerians for special public works program in the country to cushion the effect of the pandemic.
With this scorecard, Lai Mohammed says the stage is now set for the implementation of the greatest agricultural revolution in the history of the country. In Abuja, Anthony Forson.
We're now being joined by Mr. Michael Saha, a public affairs commentator, to talk about President Buhari's 1 year in office. Mr. Saha, you're welcome to NTA International
Thank you very much, Lami.
Now, today is May 29th. The president is exactly 1 year in office of his second term. Now, how would you have raised the first 360 days of his second tenure?
Well, Lami, I think the background against which one will assess Mr. President's 1 year, the last 1 year, will be the constitutional provision that talks about the primary responsibility of governance, which is in Section 14 of the Constitution. That section talks about the security and welfare of the people being the primary responsibility of government. And I think this is the basis upon which one can fairly assess Mr. President's last 1 year. And I think Mr. President, in my honest view, has done well in certain areas, but he has room to also make improvement in certain areas. Your first news item here was on, the killing of about 70 persons in Sokoto. The report, indicates that the governor of Sokoto came to brief Mr. President. Same with the governor of Kaduna State. And we've had stories of this nature over the last 1 year. So I think it will be fair to say that Mr. President can, improve in the area of security. In the area of welfare of Nigerians also, there have been a couple of policy steps taken in various directions, but there is also room for improvement. I completely agree with the Honorable Minister of Information when he says that the Executive Order number 10, which the President signed recently, is a bold step. I think it's going to be one of the landmark policy decisions of this administration, and I congratulate Mr. President and I congratulate Nigerians on this landmark policy decision.
Now, on a broader perspective, a lot of people are saying that the president's 1 year is yet unequaled, given the steady progress being made in consolidating the gains of his first tenure, especially in the agricultural sector. Now, what is your take on that?
Well, agriculture, there's no question about the fact that we have made significant improvement. We're beginning to see a return of rice pyramids. We've seen significant improvement in terms of loan facilities to farmers. We're beginning to see some kind of boost in the agricultural sector. So I think all that one can say with regard specifically to agriculture is that can we do even better than what we are doing now? We've done well in that direction, but again, there is still room for improvement, particularly if we ensure the security that I mentioned earlier on, that will give room for farmers to also feel free to go on their farms and engage in the work that they should be engaged in.
Now, how would you rate the president's fight against corruption in the past 1 year? Is he really measuring up to his earlier strides?
I have my doubts, to be very honest. I mean, I heard the Honorable Minister speak about convictions by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the ICPC. But one would have expected that 1 year into a second tenure, we would have a system in place that makes it exceedingly difficult for any person to engage in corrupt practices. Yes, we have seen convictions, we have seen recoveries and all of that, but is it possible for us to have a system in place that makes it even difficult for one to even engage in any corrupt practice? I think this is the level that we should see within the next 1 year and maybe the remaining 3 years of Mr. President's tenure.
But will you say that the president has put Nigeria on an irreversible path to sustainable development, now looking at the big picture?
I'm not too sure about the irreversibility of what the administration has done within the last 1 year. Don't forget, Lami, in 2017, this administration introduced the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The fidelity with which we have implemented this plan is questionable, and I know there are a series of reasons for this, but the fact remains that we have not even been, we have not strictly adhered to this plan that we had for ourselves. So, I mean, steps have been taken here and there, infrastructure, agriculture, and certain areas, even corruption, but I'm not quite sure. I wish I could be as positive as the Honorable Minister in adjudging the steps that have been taken as irreversible paths.
We thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much, Lydia. My pleasure. Lami, rather.
That was Mr. Mike Utsaha, a public affairs analyst, talking about President Buhari's 1 year second tenure in office. We're now going to take a break. More reports when we return.
The place to be with GoTV's super cool kids channels.
That sounds fun.
From funky friends that'll keep even the little ones busy.
All right, everybody, let's do this!
To learn as you watch educational shows for curious young minds.
You can do some amazing things.
There's plenty for everyone. Tune in to our kids shows and get everything you need to keep the kids entertained and learning the fun way. GoTV, live it, love it.
Thank you for joining us again. Nigeria has been recording a steady and rapid growth in the agricultural sector as a result of the green alternative policy being implemented by the federal government in the past 5 years. Agricultural economists are of the view that the country would have been in a major food crisis if not for the policies and programs of the APC-led administration. In this report, Musa Baba Aliu takes a look at the journey to food security and self-sufficiency so far.
It has been 5 years now that the federal government, under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, embarked on a journey. The dream is to take Nigeria out of the list of food-dependent nations to a wealthy and food-secured country. Let's eat what we produce has been the slogan of the administration. The administration came on board at a time when revenues from oil and gas dropped to less than $30 a barrel, thereby affecting the socioeconomic growth and well-being of the country. To look for other sources of income therefore became imperative, and the government turned attention to agriculture.
We thank God for the administration of Muhammad Buhari, that we are getting back into agriculture, and we hope that in the next few years, agriculture will take the front seat once again.
The first step taken in achieving these goals is identification of major challenges that made the country to be over-dependent on importation of what can be produced locally. These challenges include lack of access as well as high cost of farming inputs and farmers' inability to get financial support to expand and add value to their produce.
We have to deal with reducing the import burden of food, which is almost $22 billion a year.
To tackle these challenges, the government introduced the Anchor Borrowers Program, which was launched by President Muhammadu Buhari.
The Central Bank of Nigeria set aside 40 billion naira for rice and wheat farming in an Anchor Borrowers Program.
A farmer will be given all the necessary input required to grow wheat. And at the end of the harvest, he's going to pay back with the produce at the prevailing market price.
The latest figures released by the Central Bank of Nigeria indicated that more than 1.5 million smallholder farmers are cultivating over 1.4 million hectares of land under the Anchor Borrowers Program.
It is important for us to appreciate a government that brings about policies that are productive, that are progressive, that are positive, that are proactive.
Between 2016 and 2019, more than 10 new rice mills came on stream in Nigeria. Many of the existing mills have expanded their capacity. Several new ones are under construction.
In Zamfara State, there was this old man. He plants rice 3 times a year, and he got about 11 metric tons per hectare.
Farmers don't need to pay for the insurance separately. They don't pay premium separately. The price of the insurance is packaged and bundled into the cost of the fertilizer.
This has attracted more than $1 billion of private sector investments in the production of rice, wheat, sugar, poultry, animal feed, fertilizers, among other produce since 2015. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
From agriculture, we go to the power sector. Nigeria's search for solutions in power and road infrastructure for overall growth of the country has been a priority for the federal government since the inception of the Buhari administration 5 years ago. In this special report, Joshua Jito examines the journey so far.
From the small, medium and large-scale enterprises, as well as to domestic needs, it is the quality of electricity supply that makes the difference in achieving the desired economic growth and development.
The light is better than before.
Like other sectors with activities, electricity is delivered with all its value chain of gas, generation, transmission and distribution, working seamlessly as well as stakeholders through teamwork to deliver on mandates.
Our next level movement in this power sector is to make sure that all these projects have been completed. We are going around to complete the project and also to commission the project before the end of this term.
To ensure diversification of energy sources, the long-standing dispute which kept Mambila Power Project on the drawing board has been resolved to deliver life-changing power infrastructure and huge employment opportunities.
This just signifies the fact that we are matching words with action.
Similarly, Kashimbila and Dadinkowa hydropower projects are awaiting inauguration as work on Zungeru project is progressing.
There are many projects started by this administration from the scratch that have continued to receive funding within limits of available resources, like Lafia Transmission Station nearing completion.
In the period under review, transmission projects remain key elements of revamping the fortunes of power sector to ensure technical losses become a thing of the past. Government is exploring partnership to rebound poor networks along the supply chain by bringing German-based Siemens for infrastructure realignment, which key players say will address the challenge of revenue losses in the sector.
A solution to Nigeria's power sector is gradually being found. Government has tried.
In the larger context, the Buhari administration made commitment amounted to 1.3 trillion naira since it came on board to address revenue shortfall and ensure payments are made to gas suppliers as at when due. Similarly, government also introduced the Willing Buyer, Willing Seller initiative designed to enable consumers take electricity supply directly from generation companies to their homes and businesses. Working through the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, the issue of meter access to customers received attention, with orders to distribution companies to ensure availability.
So we're coming up what we call capping. We will cap what you should pay for the power you use and treat you well.
To further energize the economy and ensure educational development, many power sector agencies, including Rural Electrification Agency and National Integrated Power Project, have delivered solar power infrastructure to markets, schools and homes across the country where the national grid cannot reach. On road infrastructure, federal government launched the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund under the management of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority with $650 million to fund 3 critical road projects of Second Niger Bridge, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and the Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano Expressway. There are other 25 road projects being funded by the Sukuk bonds across the country with work nearing completion. In Abuja, Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
And moving on to other news, Spain, Turkey, France, Britain and Brazil have all announced plans to at least partially lift lockdowns and resume businesses as restrictions are also easing in Asian countries like the Philippines and Japan. Justin Bemunyi, in a highlight of Global COVID-19 Global Update, reports that more than 5.8 million cases have been reported worldwide, as well as 360,000 deaths, according to Johns Hopkins University.
Brazil infection rate continues to accelerate as the Latin American country has the second highest number of cases globally. Some experts say the toll could quintuple by August. As it stands now, more than 438,000 cases have been recorded with little less than 27,000 deaths. In the meantime, Pakistan will allow outbound international flights to resume from Saturday after largely closing its airspace to commercial flights to curb the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. Friday's announcement came on the day the South Asian nation reported the largest one-day spread of the infection, with 2,636 cases and 57 deaths in the last 24 hours. Pakistan has recorded a total of 64,028 cases. Also, the United Arab Emirates will shorten from Saturday by 2 hours a nightly curfew meant to prevent the spread of the novel coronavirus. The country has reported a total of 33,170 cases and 260 deaths from the disease. In a related development, 2 people who traveled from the United States to the Spanish region of Valencia have tested positive for coronavirus, potentially becoming Spain's first imported cases of the virus since travel restrictions were imposed in mid-March. With more than 27 deaths and nearly 238,000 confirmed cases of the virus, Spain is among Europe's worst-hit nations. In Africa, more than 130,000 cases and over 3,800 deaths from COVID-19 have been confirmed so far, and over 53,600 have recovered. This is just as figures released at 6 p.m. local time by Johns Hopkins University confirmed 5,963,952 cases in the world, while 2,628,670 patients have recovered and 367,007 have died. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
In the meantime, the 4 rapid test kits validated so far are not approved for the purposes of diagnosis and surveillance of COVID-2 infection in Nigeria. Elizabeth Omarui reports that the Registrar Medical Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria, Tosin Irabo, disclosed this in Abuja while unveiling a document to guide private laboratories seeking to provide testing for COVID-19.
Since the outbreak of COVID-19 in Nigeria, efforts have been intensified to come up with testing kits and drugs for the treatment of the disease. One of such efforts was a request by the Medical Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria in March this year, asking pharmaceutical companies to submit test kits for COVID-19. The performance characteristics of the 4 COVID-19 test kits validated fell below the general acceptable minimum of 95% for in vitro diagnostics, which involve sensitivity and specificity.
Today, 29th May,
2020, there is no rapid test kit that has passed validation in Nigeria. And no one should use any of these test kits in this country for now.
For this reason, a document by the Council and Nigeria Center for Disease Control to guide private sector medical laboratories seeking to speed up the availability of COVID-19 diagnostic testing through private arrangement has been developed.
It is crucial that all activities within the various sectors be properly coordinated. This is why we are happy that this will be coordinated under the Medical Laboratory Science Council to ensure quality, standardization, effective communication for a continuation of an effective public health response.
Those not granted this special approval and proceed to conduct COVID-19 testing will be considered to have contravened the provision of Section 4H of MLSN Act.
The Medical Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria says validation of other rapid test kits for SARS-CoV-2 infection is ongoing and Nigerians will be duly informed when suitable test kits meet minimum validation requirements. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
And from Jigawa comes the report that the state's COVID-19 task force begins test run of the molecular laboratory for suspected cases. Governor Muhammad Badr Abubakar says the laboratory is awaiting accreditation by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. Mohammed Musa Askira reports.
The molecular laboratory, according to Governor Muhammad Badr Abubakar, when accredited by the NCDC, will reduce the stress of sending test samples to faraway places and its attendant delay in receiving the test results. Having installed all the necessary facilities for testing COVID-19 patients and other contagious diseases, the molecular laboratory, according to the governor, has been test running its functionality since Monday as it awaits the accreditation of the NCDC. Speaking on the progress made so far in the fight against the novel coronavirus, Governor Muhammad Badr Abubakar stated out of 241 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Jigawa State, 151 patients have been cured and discharged, representing 51% of the state's total infection so far.
You will all agree with me that this fight must continue unabated until we reach our destination, a COVID-free Jigawa State.
While commending the frontline health workers in the state for their relentless efforts, Governor Muhammad Badr Abubakar appealed to residents in the state not to stigmatize against the cured patients of the disease. From Dutse, Muhammad Musa Askira, NTA News.
And those are the stories that made the news at this time on NCA International. We thank you for being there. I am Lami Ali.